So now we're going to talk about drawings for Fusion 360. There's a couple different ways that I can initiate a drawing from a model. With my model open, I can come to the File drop-down menu and say New Drawing from Design. Or from the Data panel, I can right-click and say Create Drawing. Each of these will initiate a new tab in the Fusion workspace with a sheet layout and a view attached to my cursor, which I can see here. I'm going to go ahead and place my base view in the top left-hand corner. And I'm going to say OK to commit it. You see that a view is now created. From here, I can finish kind of laying out my views by creating projected views off of this base view. To do that, I'm going to initiate the projected view command. And it's prompting me to select a parent view. So I'd like to use this base view as my parent view. And you'll notice that as I move my cursor around the screen, it will automatically adjust to the appropriate view based on that orientation of the base view. So I'm going to go ahead and create a bottom view. Click once. While the command is still active, I'm going to go ahead and create a right view as well. And I can press Enter to initiate and finish the command. To move these views, all I have to do is select once and grab the gripper and drag it to my desired location, which we'll say is somewhere over here. And I will select this guy and move him down. I can press Escape to deselect at any time. What I'd like to do now is create another base view because we're going to want an isometric view somewhere in the middle here. To do that, I can reinitiate the base view command. And instead of having a front view like is previewed with my cursor here, I'm going to change that to a northeast isometric. Place my view somewhere in the middle and say OK. So now that I've placed my views, I might decide, the scale of that last base view is maybe a little bit small for what I'm trying to communicate. So I'm going to change that. I can double click on my base view and use the drop down to select a more appropriate scale. And you'll notice that the scale updates automatically. We're going to go ahead and double click on some of these projected views. They automatically inherit the properties or the view settings, some of these additional edge visibility settings from their parent view. But for the case of this example, we don't want to use the off status from the parent view. We're going to go ahead and turn hidden lines on. And for the bottom view, we are going to want to turn tangent edges to full length. And so you'll see both of these views automatically update with those visibility enhancements. So now that I have my view set up, I want to create some text. From the annotation ribbon at the top, we see that I have 5 different types of dimensioning tools, which we'll get to a little bit later. And I also have some text and leader abilities here. So if I click on the text box, I am initiated to create some text to specify the first corner. I'll specify one corner for the start of my text box, a second corner for the second part of my text box, and I will label this the view that it is. So we'll type in northeast isometric view. By clicking anywhere off of the text box, it finishes the command. We're going to go ahead and add in the rest of the labels for these using that workflow. So now that we have all of our views labeled appropriately, I think it's time for us to add in some leader notes. I'm going to zoom into the bottom view here, and we'll create a leader note by initiating the leader command. Picking a point on the edge of the tip of the blade for our starting point for the leader, specify a second location for the elbow of the leader, and type in the name of this part. So we'll say steel blade. Clicking anywhere off of the text box initiates the text command and closes it, similarly to the original text command. And I can also come in and edit the placement of this. So I can select it and use the grippers to drag the elbow over. I can also double click on the text, and I can use these sliders to determine the width of my text box here. So we'll go ahead and make that a double line. Select off of it to commit. So now I'd like to go in and add some dimensions. You see I have 5 different dimension types across the top of the annotation toolbar, and we're going to walk through them one by one. So first we're going to create a linear dimension. I'm going to zoom into the bottom view here, initiate linear dimension command, and I'm going to select the midpoint of the center of this the housing for the box cutter. Each side of the midpoint, and you see that my dimension is automatically populated for me. If I click one more time, it initiates the command and I have my dimension created. So now I want to create an aligned dimension. I'm going to zoom into the right view, initiate the align dimension command, and select the first and the last point of the angle of the box cutter blade. Zoom out, and you can see that I have my annotation automatically created. I can pull it out to a desired location, click one more time to initiate the command. On my right front view, I can create an angular dimension by initiating it and selecting the outer edge of the housing to give me that nice angle off of the side of it. And lastly, we'll come back to the right view and we'll create a couple of radial and diameter dimensions. So I'm going to initiate the radial command, and I'm going to select this interior hole and bring myself down here to select again to give myself my radius. And I'll grab the diameter of the interior boss of the webbing. So if you look at the whole sheet, we now have base views, projected views, some text to call out the titles of each view, leader notes, as well as a variety of annotations. If I wanted to come in and override any of these annotations, I could double click, delete what's in there, type in a more natural value, and select off of it, and it would give me an override. To get that back, I just double click on it, select everything, delete it, and click off, and it reverts back to the original dimension value. So at this point, we might want to come in and add some text annotations to our title block here. I'm going to zoom in and use the text command to add some of that in here. We'll add a title of box cutter. We can use the right-click menu to repeat the text command for ease of use. Add in a project name. And we'll make sure that the text is formatted appropriately on one line before selecting off. Can move these around. We'll go ahead and add a name and put it in the approved dialog box. So now that we have the sheet set up, what we might want to do is save it. So from the File drop-down menu, we'll say Save. I can add in a custom field here or leave it as is. Make sure that it's in the project that you want and say Save. And I can also output this drawing to a couple different formats. So I can either use the drawing from within my A360 account to share it and to view it with the users, but I can also output it for records as a DWG or a PDF from this drop-down menu. They both operate in the same way. I can navigate to a local location that I want, put in a drawing name, we'll just call it drawing, and press save. And we'll see that that saved itself to my desktop. And you can see that my PDF was created with a couple of different varieties for my layers for line weights as well. Something I might want to do is change some of the drawing settings or the drawing preferences for this drawing. So we're going to go ahead and show you how to do that as well. On the application bar, if I go to Document Settings, that'll open up a local document settings. So all of these settings pertain specifically to this drawing layout that I see here. So I have a couple different options that I can modify at this point. I want to go ahead and change maybe my text to a little bit bigger, to a 0.24, and my angular dimension to a 3/10 accuracy. If I go ahead and say OK, things are already automatically adjusted. I might need to come in here and edit my text to make sure that it all fits. But other than that, things look pretty good. You can also use that dialog box to adjust your page layout. If I wanted it in a different layout, I could say size D, say apply, and it automatically places my view on that layout. That's not the sheet size that I want, so I can go back in and reset it.